Hi, my name is SammyJo Petefish, and the research project that I did is about awareness and perceptions of immunizations. Okay, for the purpose of this study, more information. Purpose of this experiment is to assess immunization awareness and knowledge of the general public. More information needs to be accessible to the general public about immunizations. The study I did throughout the research was international research, statewide research, as well as districts and communities. I focused on the Cass County population because that is where I'm from, and that is where the facility that I really focused on, the Cass County Community Health Department, was located at. For the Cass County population, 24.2% of the residents are under the age of 18, and 6.1% of the residents are under the age of 5, meaning all residents under the age of 18 have had immunizations throughout their lives. Cass County has maintained levels above 95% for recorded school immunization records, which is generally the same amount as most schools in Illinois. In the school year of 2012-2013, the compliance level of all students receiving immunizations was 97.1%, almost to 100%, but not there. The research was conducted using a survey design and was administered through e-distribution as well as distributed and collected through paper forms. The survey questionnaire was modified and developed on November 2nd, and content validity was established through using questions from a previous study done by the University of Children's Hospital in Switzerland, as well as a review of Dr. S. The electronic instrument was created using Google Forms, and the questions obtained through a previous study adapted from Ulrich Heininger's study through University of Children's Hospital in Switzerland. This survey was adapted from 14 questions to 11, all about perception, awareness, and misconceptions of immunization for people who were parents as well as people who were not. Data was coded and collected using the Microsoft Excel and analyzed through Microsoft Excel as well as SPSS. The univariate descriptive statistics and bivariate chi-square tests for the dichotomized variables were calculated for the respondents in the sample. Of this population, 35% were parents, while 65% were not. The survey reveals that 60% referred to their pediatricians for immunization information, as well as 20% preferred information leaflets. 80% agreed with the recommended time frame of immunizations, which starts at 15 months. And 5% concluded that it was too early. Of the 5%, that 5% was one person in the study, but it was a parent, so I took that into consideration when comparing parents to non-parents. Knowledge of side effects and recommended immunizations demonstrated that within the sample, 65% had some knowledge and 30% did not. This is something that I really focused on because it showed that more information needs to be given to the public about immunizations, because that is a high statistic for the sample size that I have. When asked about awareness, 50% wanted very detailed information about immunizations, while others, 35%, wanted detailed information, and 10% answered to some extent they wanted knowledge of immunizations. So everyone in the study wanted to be informed somehow about immunizations. That is either distributed to their children or to themselves. 100% of parents had knowledge of side effects, while 46.2% of non-parents understood side effects. Of the parents who answered the questions, they did understand that there are some side effects when it comes to immunizations for their children or for themselves. 46.2 is a high statistic for the non-parents, but this really shows that more information needs to be given to those people who might one day become parents. So misconceptions and concerns can be eliminated from the immunization process. When questioned about the safety of immunizations, 70% stated that they were sufficiently safe, while 15% believed immunizations were very safe, and 10% recorded that they were not so safe or concerning, as 5% determined that they did not know. This was interesting because throughout the studies that I did, immunizations are categorized as very safe, but throughout international studies, I had one from Switzerland, one from Germany, and one from Thailand. They stated that most of the people who took surveys determining perceptions and awareness of immunizations thought that it was not so safe and it was concerning to the children. So I found it very interesting that we did not have the sample size did not have the same views as other parents in other countries. A limitation of the study was that it was a small sample size than expected previously. I had originally wanted a much larger amount of people to take the sample, but found that that was, with the time constraints, not able to happen. Future research should include a larger sample size and a longer time frame for conducting the study. Throughout this research, I concluded that information is given to the general public, but more information, concise about misconceptions and concerns, as well as perceptions, needs to be administered throughout the public so that they can decipher what is a misconception and what is an awareness. Any questions?
I have one question. More of a clarifying question. So the concern for the purpose is for the general public, parents or not, to understand what immunizations are, safety or not, what the risks are, things like that.
Yes. There's a common misconception that all immunizations are recommended and needed, but most of the compliance level, the 97%, were also immunizations that were not needed for school, but were given to the children anyway from the compliance of the parents. In the studies that I found, a lot of the information given was from the pediatricians, and since the United States is more scientifically based, they just go with whatever the pediatrician or their physician says they do. So no questions were asked, no information was given about what immunizations were, how many were going to be given to the child, stuff like that. So I wanted to decipher people's awareness of what immunizations were and juxtapose that to the other studies done in the United States as well as internationally.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So for like chicken pox, varicella, is that required right now? Is that a required vaccination?
Yes.
In the state of Illinois? Okay. So when I was growing up back in my old days, there was not, right? And so now I'm a parent, right? Or was when my boys were younger, and I'd say, you know, if they said, well, they had to get it, I wouldn't know. I would probably first say, well, no, it's not required. But then there's now a state law saying it, so then I think probably I would be just like, okay, the pediatrician says it. And I think what Sammy, what she's getting at is, you know, as a parent, I just said what my pediatrician wanted, but I didn't necessarily know for myself what the effect would be, right? And so how does your survey and research and findings, I know this is of interest to you to promote programs like this, how does your own research impact some of what you think about what needs to be done around awareness in the community?
My hypothesis was that there is very little awareness and knowledge of immunizations, and through the questions, it was deciphered that there is some knowledge, but not to the extent that of the study that I had obtained my questions from actually showed. The amount of immunization and medical problems and things that go on for children before they even are mandated to go to school happens at 15 months. So I wanted to make sure that in this study I covered children who, or people who had children, as well as people who have gotten immunizations themselves. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Sure. And you ran one bivariate statistic,
Yes.
and it was pretty interesting because all the parents answered, what way?
To some knowledge. They had some knowledge of
Had some knowledge, right.
side effects that an immunization can have.
So parents in your study were more likely to have knowledge about the side effects of immunization than non-parents.
Right.
Which sort of makes sense, right?
Right.
Makes sense because you educate yourself as a parent. But your whole point is even non-parents who are going to be having babies and being parents should know about immunizations.
Yes.
I would think. Or they cross that bridge when it comes to it, right? Thank you very much, Sammy.